Hello, everybody. My name is Pranav Gupta. I'm the Director of High School Admissions and AP Prep at MEK Review. In this video, we're going to be talking about annotation and note-taking. So before we begin, let's talk a little bit about what it takes to solve a math question effectively. There are usually four steps. First, students summarize the question itself, and then they go on to use that summary to set up the question, and then they use the setup to solve and calculate, and then they have to interpret if they have solved for the right thing. So these four steps, even though we're not conscious about whether we're doing it or not, everyone does it. And then more conscious you become of these steps, the better and more accurate you're going to become in your math journey. Now, the reason that I picked annotation is that's the backbone. That's the initial step, which is the summarizing part, which is connected to the last three steps. Let's do an example. The whole part of annotation is to clarify your thought process so you can set up the problem as accurately as possible. Let's do an example, and as we walk through it, I'll give you some pointers that I use with my students that will help you when you solve any questions moving forward. So there are three things that I always focus on. Number one, you have to underline two things primarily: the given and the required information. That's the basic, right? So in this case, what's the given information? A survey was given to a residents of all 50 states. The word given is there, right? Asking if they had earned a degree or higher. The result from 7 states are given in the table above. Again, the word given comes up. So that's what they're giving you. They surveyed 50 states, but they're giving you 7. Then what are they asking you for? They're asking you for the difference between the median who earned for these 7 states and the median of all 50. So they're asking you for the median of all 50 states and the 7 states that are given to us in this table. Now, second thing, which is going to complement the first thing that we do, is circle. Let's differentiate our annotation. Circle quantities. Quantities are always going to be tied to, well, not always, in most cases, going to be tied to some important detail in the actual question. So circle quantities. So in this case, I'm going to circle 50 states and then result from 7 of the states. Then we have 50 again, this, we have this, and then we have this. Each of these, more often than not, are going to be tied to an important detail. So for example, 26.95%. This is tied to what? It's tied to the median percent of residents who earned a bachelor's degree or higher for all 50 states. So that's the detail this number is attached to. And then finally, the third thing is to underline. Well, I don't want to underline too much, but identify, I guess. I call it intermediate detail. So that's an example of an intermediate detail. 26.95%, that is what? The median percent for all 50 states. Now, based off of this, you already have a much more clear of an idea on how to set up and execute this question versus, basically versus this, right? Let's do another example quickly. Joe rode from his house to a store at an average speed of 30 kilometers per hour. He walked back along the same route. So we already know what the given is. Joe rode from his house to a store. Then we have a number here, 30 kilometers per hour. He walked back along the same route. So that's an intermediate detail. Same route. That means the same distance. At an average speed of, we have another number, 2 kilometers per hour. If his total traveling time was 2 hours, what is the one-way distance? And then we finally have the required information, which is what is the one-way distance from Joe's house to the store. That's the required information. It's very important to interpret the answer at the very end. So let's say you solve for, the two-way distance. Then you have to ask yourself, did I solve for the right thing? Like, did I solve for the one-way distance? Did I solve for the time? Did I solve for something else, right? So I think it's very important at the very end of it to interpret what the answer that you got is actually the thing that you're solving for, and annotation is one of the ways. One of the ways that's kind of like a checkpoint where you can eliminate or correct any sort of a misinterpretation or something like that. So that's basically my general advice. You always want to initiate as effectively as possible, and you do that by underlining the given and the required, circling any quantities that you have that are going to be connected with any important details that you've already underlined, and then you go ahead and initiate and set up your actual question. So this may seem a little trivial, but it's not. It's one of the most important advice and tips that I can give you to become a better problem solver.